Hey everyone, Mrs. Somick here, and I am so excited to join you for another fourth grade lesson today. And if you remember from last week, on Friday, we went and visited the mountain region of North Carolina. Well, we're going to start heading east, and we're going to move over today to the Piedmont region, which I'm so excited to share with you because that is where I'm originally from. I'm from a small town called Asheboro, and we are in the Piedmont region. So I hope you're excited to learn a little more. We are going to do another craft. And if you have these materials at home, you can join me making that craft at the end. If you don't, no worries. Don't worry about it. But just a white sheet of paper. If you have either markers or crayons, and if you have some finger paint or just like some basic little water paints or anything like that at home, go grab it and you can come and join me very quickly. So get ready, pack those bags as we head east over to the Piedmont region of North Carolina. All right. Hey, everybody. Well, I hope you are just as excited as I am to get started with our virtual field trip here. You can already see in this photograph these beautiful rolling green, grassy pasture hills here. And that is so typical of what you would see if you travel to the Piedmont region of North Carolina. Now, as we go on this virtual field trip with me today, remember that I got most of my information from the NC Museum of History.org. And if you'd like to investigate that website to check out some more resources, I encourage you to do that. Well, let's go ahead and get started here. So why is the Piedmont so unique? Today, we're going to take a closer look at the location and the land features, the American Indians of this area, the settlement of what we call the Backcountry. What is the Backcountry? The state capital. Do you already know what our state capital is? If not, you'll find out soon. Pottery. The Research Triangle Park, also known as RTP. And one of my all-time favorites, the North Carolina Zoological Park, or what we call the North Carolina Zoo. So let's go ahead and get started with the location to begin with. So as you can see here, we started our investigation in the western part last week of the mountain region, North Carolina. As we go ahead and head east, we now find ourselves in this Piedmont region that is right here kind of centrally located, okay? So as I just said, it is the central region of North Carolina, and it is bordered on the east by the coastal plain region and on the west by the mountain region. Now, this fall line that you can see drawn on the map, that's actually an imaginary line, but it's where you can find rapids and waterfalls that begin, and it separates the Piedmont from the coastal plain. Now, the Blue Ridge Mountains, as we already know, separate the Piedmont region from the mountain region. Now, this is interesting. So the soil in our Piedmont is mostly red clay, and rocks are found throughout the region. That heavy clay soil is more difficult to farm than the sand and clay soil of the coastal plain. So that's going to play into the farming in this particular area. Now, there are a few isolated mountain ranges that you can find in the Piedmont, not anything like the mountain region. One in particular is Pilot Mountain, and it is an isolated peak that stands at 1,500 feet above its surrounding countryside. Now, it once served as a landmark, or what they call a pilot, for American Indians, explorers, and settlers. Well, let's go investigate Pilot Mountain a little bit more. I hope you're ready.
The Andy Griffith Show was a beloved sitcom in the 1960s set in Mount Airy, a real-life North Carolina town. Often, Andy and Barney referred to Mount Pilot. Pilot Mountain is a real place, too. It's about 80 miles north of Charlotte and rises up from the Yadkin Valley. In our next story, Carolina Impact's John Branscombe gives us a bird's-eye view of Pilot Mountain State Park.
You're at Pilot Mountain State Park today.
The top is awesome. Number one, the view of the Yadkin Valley is just terrific.
It's really breathtaking.
The big pinnacle, which you see coming up the highway, is amazing when you walk around the base of it.
Good exercise, good fresh air.
Pilot Mountain is 2,424 feet above sea level. You're looking at a billion years of history right here. Pilot Mountain is loosely translated from the Native Americans that lived in this area, the Sour Indians. they called this area Jomioki, which loosely translates to great guide or pilot. Our big attraction is obviously the mountain. We've got hiking, rock climbing. We do have climbers all the time. This is a great place for beginners and for expert climbers. The Little Pinnacle Overlook is about 1/10 of a mile, and it's a few rock steps, but you get out to the overlook here where you can open up to the area opens up to the big pinnacle right there. So that's the best view that you can get. The Jomioki Trail is 8/10 of a mile, and the top of the knob has been closed off since 1973.
Oh, that's a raven?
That's the ravens of Pilot
That
Mountain.
is not,
I forgot to mention.
not a vulture.
No, it's not a vulture.
One reason why the top was closed to climbing in 73 was because of Pilot Mountain being one of the only places in North Carolina that has nesting ravens. But we've got just over 20 miles of trails, and most of them are pretty difficult. In this area, they're pretty steep and rocky, but we do have a river section where the trails are more of a meandering walk along the river. We have a North River section and a South River section, and the North River section particularly is a great place to go wade in the river, go fishing, and picnics, hiking. Got camping, picnicking. We have 48 sites, and it's primitive camping.
There's no water hookups, no electricity. You know, it's pretty much tent, or you see a lot of guys with hammocks strung from tree to tree. The people here, the rangers, the staff that are here are absolutely fantastic. They have a lot of tours here. They have a lot of events for kids.
Oh, I've only been able to see it for all of my life. So yeah, it's a pretty special place. Come out and see the park. It's beautiful. Beautiful, inspiring scenery and exercise. How can you go wrong?
Looks like a great place to visit. Thanks so much, John. The park is open year-round, and as you can imagine, it gets pretty busy in the fall, so spring or summer might be perfect times to check it out.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed looking at those beautiful views of Pilot Mountain and getting to know that isolated peak just a little bit more. All right, let's move on to our Native Americans, the American Indians that have that history here in the Piedmont region. Now take a look at the photographs I have here. I have two young children here in more of a traditional attire, and it looks like they're at some kind of great celebration known as a powwow. And also take a look at the buildings, how the shape of the structure has been built as we get to know this Town Creek Indian Mound a little bit better here. Now, Town Creek was this settlement, as you see here, that was established by the Pee Dee Indians in the Sandhills area of the Piedmont more than 1,000 years ago. Now, the site lies where the Town Creek and the Little River meet in Montgomery County. The Pee Dee built a center there so they could hold public meetings and religious ceremonies. So that was the purpose. Now, most American Indians in the Piedmont belong to the Siouan language family. The Catawba, a powerful tribe, lived mainly in present-day Mecklenburg and Union counties. Now, this particular tribe, they hunted, fished, and grew crops to survive. The Catawba and other tribes established a trading path from the Piedmont to Virginia. Today, along Interstate 85, generally it follows this route, so it is known as the trading path. Now, the contact, unfortunately, this is a lot like what we heard about with the mountain region American Indians as well. This contact with the European settlers led to smallpox and other diseases that reduced the Catawba tribe's population of 5,000. And by 1738, the Catawba numbered 700, but by 1784, it was less than 300. And in the 1910 census for North Carolina, it listed only 6 Catawba Indians. Now, this is getting into more of the settlement of what we refer to as the backcountry. So what do we mean by the backcountry? Well, the Piedmont was the frontier for these European settlers, and they referred to it as the backcountry of North Carolina during the colonial period. Now, people were lured out there by the availability of cheap and fertile land, and the first settlers actually began to move into the region in 1730. Now, the Piedmont was settled primarily by the Scots-Irish, German, Welsh, and other immigrants moving south from Pennsylvania and Virginia, but also by people who were moving north from South Carolina. Now, most settlers in the backcountry were what we call subsistence farmers. So not these large plantation farmers, but subsistence farmers, which means they cultivated only small portions of land. Now, they grew the crops they needed to survive, such as corn and wheat, and raised hogs. And the farmers ate simply cornbread, hominy, and pork. And they supplemented their diet with venison and small game, as well as the vegetables from their gardens. Do you recognize that skyline? It is our state capital, and our state capital is located in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Wake County. And I love that photograph. It's such a beautiful photo of the night skyline there in downtown Raleigh when the sun is setting and all the lights are turning on. So let's learn a little bit more about the history of our state capital here. Some fun, fast facts for you. So interestingly enough, during the Revolutionary War, legislators, our lawmakers here, they would travel from town to town hauling the state records with them in carts and wagons. And they met in many places, including Hillsborough, Halifax, Smithfield, Fayetteville, New Bern, Tarboro, and Wake Courthouse. Imagine that for a second, having to haul all these records with you and traveling from place to place. Well, after the war, different groups around the state requested that the capital be a fixed location. And the people of the Piedmont strongly urged that it be centrally located, so right there in the center of our state. I can imagine they were probably pretty tired of hauling all those state records around. Now, after a lot of debate, the 1788 convention voted to choose a capital site. It was within 10 miles of Isaac Hunter's Tavern in Wake County. Now, a capital committee chose a 1,000-acre site offered by Joel Lane of Wakefield Plantation. And this area eventually became known as the new city, which was later named as Raleigh. Now, as I mentioned before, pottery. When have you had an experience with pottery? Maybe an art class? What do you use to form your different pieces in pottery? Was it clay? Well, why would that be something important and makes the Piedmont unique? Do you remember what I told you about the soil? Let's take a look. So pottery making developed in the Piedmont in the early 1800s because of the region's abundant clay soil. Now, many North Carolina potters were farmers who made and sold pottery on the side. And because of that extra income it brought in, pottery was then considered a cash crop, just like tobacco. Now, pottery making did decline in the early 1900s because inexpensive metal and glass containers were becoming more readily available for people. However, in the 1920s and 30s, there was this revival and an interest in pottery, and some potters began making more what you call decorative pieces. Now, there's an area right by where Mrs. Summit grew up, and it is the city of Seagrove. And it has supported pottery manufacturing for almost 200 years. And it is an important pottery center here in the Southeast. Now, today, over 100 potters work in Seagrove. Many local families, such as the Lucks, the Cravens, the Owenses, that continue to pass down this tradition of pottery making from generation to generation. Do you want to see how they do it? I can't wait to show you. So let's go visit here at the town of Seagrove.
Hello, my name is Ben Owen III, and I live in Seagrove, North Carolina. What we have here in Seagrove is a history of pottery that goes back over 200 years. My family has been part of a tradition since the late 1700s, early 1800s when they moved here. Some of the early pieces they made were pieces like this pie plate that was a very common form that was made by many of the potters in this community, used for baking and other types of needs. But some of the forms that we have been inspired by, like this piece that my grandfather made, was inspired by early Chinese forms from Han Dynasty. But looking at these pieces as a potter today in this community, I've been able to take and adapt some of these designs and forms into shapes that I make today, such as some of the Chinese red that we have here today, and other types of designs and colors that we've made for contemporary settings. We really want to preserve the past and the history of our early forefathers, but we also want to adapt and develop new designs and new hybrids of forms and things that we've found from these past influences. When I was growing up, I had a really unique opportunity to spend time after school and on weekends with my grandparents who lived here next door at the pottery. And so when I was about 8 years old, my granddad began bringing me out to the pottery where he used to work. And from that, he began to show me how to work with the clay and how to slake it down and how to make it into a workable consistency like what I'm doing today. And he was such a wonderful mentor to me over about 7 years of time that he was able to work with me one-on-one, and up until I was 15 years old when he passed away. But just that experience of learning how to make pots and understand how the clay can take all types of shapes and forms along the way. And it really just created a whole idea or mindset for me that each pot is really a sketch for the next one. And that's really been part of our tradition. Doesn't mean the pots in the past I made are inferior or not as good quality, but it's just another step in the process. There's so much here to learn about individual potters as well as the history of this area. And the first place I would suggest starting out is at the North Carolina Pottery Center and Museum that we have in downtown Seagrove, where people can come and learn from this history that we have in this community and how it's being changed today and added to in a unique and wonderful way. When you go to visit an individual potter, you're going to see that they sell a good majority of their work or a good portion of their work through their retail shop. So we encourage people to get to know the artist, get to know the potter, and learn about what is unique about their style and design. Seagrove offers really a unique opportunity to visit and understand about a 2-century-old tradition that's going on in this community. There is no other part in the United States that boasts or has over 100 potters in a concentrated area like Seagrove. And we encourage you to come to this area, and we look forward to seeing you when you can visit.
Isn't that amazing to watch him really just kind of form the shape of what he's building in the clay? I love how he said it just really comes alive when he's working with the clay. So I hope you enjoyed that. All right, let's move on. All right, so we see if you're a sports follower, maybe some big teams up there representing the state of North Carolina. I gotta give props to Duke University first and foremost. But I can see there an emblem here for Duke University, a logo for UNC Chapel Hill, and then obviously there of North Carolina State University as well, so NC State. Now, why did I put that there? So Duke University is located in the city of Durham. UNC Chapel Hill is obviously located in Chapel Hill, and NC State is located there in Raleigh. So Durham, Chapel Hill, Raleigh. Let's figure out what these 3 cities have in common. So in 1959, the Research Triangle Park is one of the oldest and largest research parks in the United States. It comprises of 7,000 acres of land in Durham and Wake counties, and lies near 3 major research universities, which you can see there up at the top: Duke University in Durham, the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill, and the North Carolina State University in Raleigh. So the triangle gets its name because these 3 large cities kind of form a triangular shape, very close together there. Now, government, university, and business leaders all have created this Research Triangle Park kind of as a model for research, innovation, and overall economic development. The purpose of this park is to create some kind of infrastructure there to attract research-based companies. And they want to utilize that well-educated local workforce. So we want to really build up what research can happen, what technological advances can they make there in that particular area. Now, Two of them, particularly Duke University and the University of North Carolina, they are leaders in medical research there. So both universities have hospitals that actually employ the latest scientific and technological innovations. So two huge hospitals there leading the way in medical research. Pretty amazing. Okay. On top, of course, three amazing teams to watch in the sports. All right, let's keep going. Now, all right, we have made it finally to the North Carolina Zoological Park. And you're going to find out why Mrs. Semick loves the Zoological Park so much. So the North Carolina Zoo, it is nestled on 2,600 wooded acres, and it is centrally located in the heart of North Carolina. Where's the heart of North Carolina? In my hometown of Asheboro in Randolph County. Now, with 500 of those acres being developed, it is the world's largest natural habitat zoo. Now, that's huge. It's not just any old zoo. It is a natural habitat zoo, which you'll find out more about here in just a minute. And it is one of two state-supported zoos. Now, the North Carolina Zoo is an agency of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. So lots of research and learning is happening at this particular zoo. Now, the North Carolina Zoo grew from simply an idea that was initiated by the Raleigh JCs in 1967, and they had a series of fundraising events, and the Randolph County site, it was selected. Why? Because like we just said, it was in the heart of North Carolina because it was simply center of the state there. Now, we're going to watch a short video of a young girl who's going to walk us through this zoo with some great clips, and she's going to explain to you why this zoo is her favorite zoo. Let's take a look.
Welcome to one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. Our zoo is awesome. It's so beautiful here. There's so much here to discover. Watching the animals run and play here makes me happy. They have so much room to roam. The elephants are ginormous, bigger than I ever imagined. Wow, they even have a geyser here. They have the coolest carousel I've ever seen. I rode the polar bear. We even got to go on really cool paddle boats. There's so much to do here. My friends and I love to play in the stream at Kids Zone. And they have the coolest playground too. The caregivers know so much about their animals. I just love to talk with them. Oh my gosh, you have to see all the birds. They're so beautiful. I had never seen an ibis before. They were really colorful. Mom took me on safari. I've never been so close to a rhinoceros before. And the ostriches came right up to the bus. At the North Carolina Zoo, I learned how I can help animals in the wild. My favorite part is getting close to my new best friend, Jack. You never know what you'll see when you come to the North Carolina Zoo.
Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed seeing one of my most favorite places in the world to visit, and that is the North Carolina Zoo. So, of course, go figure, the craft we're going to work on today is one that was inspired by the North Carolina Zoo. And again, they have a great website with all kinds of fun different animal crafts. I had to pick the one that was my son's favorite when he goes to visit, and we always have to go into the desert exhibit to go check out all the different types of snakes. I can appreciate them from far. So we have a fun little snake craft for you today here. And like I said earlier, paint, obviously paper, even a paintbrush. You could even use crayons and markers if you wanted to, if you don't have paint, and just to kind of create this snake. So what I have done here is obviously I had a sheet of white paper that I use. Any paper really will do. And then I just borrowed my son's different little watercolor different paints here that you have, and just kind of, I use my fingers, as you can see from the illustration. And what they're advising is that you want to really use like your thumb and your larger, wider fingers for more of the head, and you want to try to save the smaller fingers as you go through the body. Now, what makes this really fun is if you try to make a pattern out of it, because a lot of times if you look at a snake's skin, there's a lot of different colors and design patterns throughout. So I started one, let me not have it upside down. So I started one here for you to take a look at here. And you can see I'm going from blue, green, orange, and then I'm repeating my pattern again, blue, green, orange as well. And then as I'm moving down my snake with my fingers, I'm trying to make the prints a little smaller each time. Now, the last step that I saved for us, friends, was here, I've got to finish off my little snake. He needs to have 2 eyes and a long little tongue to stick out, right? So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use my colored pencils, okay, whatever you have available here. And I'm going to place 2 little eyes on the head and stick a little pink tongue out in front of you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for you now, just to finish off my snake. And, you know, it's not about being the best artist around. Just do your best. It always comes out fun looking regardless. And so as you can see here, my little snake is finished off with this cute 2 little eyes and his little pink tongue sticking out. Okay, so I encourage you, you know, it'd be kind of fun just to see what kind of color patterns you can come up with your snake. You can use all kinds of different things at home. I really hoped you loved investigating the Piedmont region. My hometown's located in that region. I miss it dearly right now. And come join us next week because we're going to finish out with the 3rd region here of the coastal plains. And that is where Wilmington is located. And we're going to do some fun beach activities at the end of it. All right. Take care. Have a wonderful week.